Hey, so now we're going to go over three topics for anatomy and physiology. The first will be the tissue organization. The second will be the integument system, the skin. And the third will be bones and skeletal systems. Let's go. So, starting in chapter 5, tissue organization. So, there are four major types of tissues. The first is epithelial tissue, which lines the inner cavities and exterior surfaces of the body. You can think of skin as epithelial tissue. Then there's connective tissue, which binds cells and organs of the body together. Then we have muscle tissue, which provides movement through contraction, and nervous tissue, which communicates short and long distances throughout the body to make things happen. Epithelial tissues cover all the surfaces of the body, including the outside and the inside, to protect the body from physical, chemical, and biological wear and tear. You can think of epithelial tissue as the skin, as we said earlier, but a lot of people don't think of epithelial and skin tissue as the linings inside of these cavities. So think of inside of your throat. You have a lining that goes all the way down to your stomach, and that would be considered epithelial as well. Connective tissues have three components: cells, ground substance, and protein fibers. Ground substance is a major component of connective tissues. There are three types: protein fibers, collagen fibers, elastic fibers, and reticular fibers. The portions of these fibers determine the physical properties of the different types of connective tissue. The next two types of tissue are muscles and nervous. And what I want you to remember here is that both are excited by action potentials in order to do their job. So let's talk about muscles first. So muscles are excitable. When excited, the tissue contracts and creates movement. There are three types of muscle tissues: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth muscle. Some of these work voluntary and some of them work involuntary. Skeletal muscle, which controls a voluntary movement. Cardiac muscle controls involuntary movement around the heart. And smooth muscle controls involuntary movement in your gastrointestinal, urinary, and reproductive system. So think of things inside of your body that do their job without you having to think about it. Smooth muscle would be involved in that. All three types of muscle tissue consist mainly of densely packed muscle fibers, which with very little space in between them. So you can think of these muscle fibers as a bundle, and we'll talk about those bundles in a minute. The last type of tissue is nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is made up of neurons and glial cells. Nervous tissue makes up the brain, the spinal cord, and peripheral nerves. And these, again, are neurons are excitable cells, therefore, they're capable of responding to some kind of stimulus. So, neurons are specialized for communication through action potentials. And so we get a flood of activity inside of a neuron, and then it fires off to trigger a muscle or some other kind of movement. Okay, let's talk about injury real quick. So, inflammation is the body's response to injury. This initiates a chain of events to control damage and heal tissue. One of the things I want to talk about is aging, where we see a decrease in the rate of mitosis, cells dividing, and a decrease in the number of elastic fibers. Something that also happens is that yellow bone marrow starts to increase. Another type of damage happens when cancer takes over and there's a mutation in DNA replication that causes the cell to replicate uncontrollably and form tumors and do other damage inside of the body. So let's go back to muscles just for one moment. So I want you to think of muscle fibers as existing in a bundle, right? And so a very popular muscle bundle would be the bicep. And so that would be the inside of your arm, and it causes your arm to close or come up, and that's the action that it takes. And so what you need to remember about muscle is that it can only pull, it cannot push, right? So your bicep pulls your arm up, and then quite amazingly, I think, there is another muscle which pulls your arm down or counteracts the bicep, and that would be the tricep on the back of your arm. The tricep pulls your arm open. If there's any kind of resistance, the tricep would be the one to contract and pull your arm open, and then your bicep would counteract that and contract and pull your arm up. You can see this kind of interaction all over the body, whether it's moving your head from left to right, or moving, running, or closing your leg, or twisting your body left to right. You'll see counteracting muscles on each side that pull because they can't push, but they pull against each other to make these movements happen. The skin has three layers: the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis. You can think of the outermost layer, the skin, as the epidermis. The dermis is mostly connective tissue and has two layers, the papillary layer and the reticular layer. The hypodermis is the deepest layer of skin and connects the dermis to the fascia. If we get in close to see how the hypodermis is connected to the fascia or other underlying structure, we would see this kind of lock and key interaction, almost like Velcro, where if you were to pinch your skin, you notice the underlying of your skin moves with it because it's locked together. Think about a bag over a basketball. If you were to pull the bag, you would just be pulling the bag and you would see it separate from the basketball. But that doesn't happen with your skin, right? When you pull your skin, you see the underlying move with it because it's all connected. The integumentary system functions to both protect the body, sense changes in the environment, regulate body temperature, and synthesize vitamin D. The integumentary system is, which includes the skin and accessory organs, is vital to the homeostasis of the body. The skin provides sensations such as touch, pressure, vibration, temperature, and pain. The skin helps to regulate body temperature through sweating and changes in blood flow. And the skin also helps in vitamin D synthesis, which is why it's so important to get outside every now and then so that we can get vitamin D from the sun and produce all type of good stuff. All right, so let's talk about healing real quick involving the skin. So all wounds heal sequentially. First, the blood clots. Then there's a granulation tissue laid in the region. Next, there's increased blood flow to the region to bring more macrophages to that region. At the same time, there's a replication of the stratum basal, and eventually a scar would form. There are three types of burns also on the skin. So the first degree burn affects only the epidermis. A second degree burn affects the epidermis and part of the dermis. A third degree burn affects the epidermis and the dermis. And last, there are three types of cancer that can arise in the skin. There is a basal cell carcinoma, a squamous cell carcinoma, and the one that's more popular, the melanoma, the squamous cell carcinoma, that is most treatable, while melanoma is most likely to metastasize. All right, so let's move on to the bones and skeletal system. So the skeletal system is responsible for providing structure to hold the body upright and to protect your internal organs. Think about your rib cage protecting your lungs and maintaining homeostasis through mineral deposits and withdrawal. And also, very important is the production of red blood cells. Three types of cartilage exist in the skeletal system: the hyaline cartilage, the elastic cartilage, and the fibrocartilage. And there are two types of bone marrow, red marrow and yellow marrow. And it's important to know that yellow marrow increases as you age, and that's what makes your bones change as you age. All right, so bones can be classified by shape: long bones, short bones, irregular bones, flat bones, and sesamoid bone. In lab, you'll probably go over these, you'll get them in your hands, and you'll be able to tell the difference between them all. So pay attention for that. And last, I wanted to talk about how calcium is used in the body not only as a major component of the bone matrix, but also in nervous system impulse conduction, muscle contraction, and blood clotting. Remember, we talked earlier about how muscles and nervous tissue have action potentials, and they get excited in order to do their job. So calcium is something that's really required for all these things to work together. So that's an important mineral for the body. Okay, so vitamin D, when converted into a hormone, is critical for the absorption of dietary calcium into the small intestine. This is of vital importance to bone health as well. Bones will adapt to the stresses put on them, so activity will promote bone growth and increased bone density. Think about going to the gym, you're lifting heavy weights. Part of the reason you're doing that is so that you can put stress on your bones, you can challenge your bones and cause them to grow and increase your bone density. Football players do this a lot. They want to prevent injury, so they get into the weight room, they lift weights, they want their bones to be stronger so that with all the impacts that they take on, they can reduce their injury. So I just wanted to show one more picture where we're getting close and we can see what's going on inside of some bone material. And one thing I wanted to point out is the erythrocytes. If you look on the left side, you see them forming inside of the bone, and eventually they come out and they mix with blood plasma, they mix with water, they mix with leukocytes, and they become what we know of as the blood fluid, which courses throughout our bodies, brings nutrients, aids in healing, and many other things.